Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and direct to you to educate you, enlighten you, and bring you topical information about any of the fandoms that you may or may not be interested in. Today's guest is Trent from Sacramento, California. Not only is he a cosplayer, but he's also into a number of different fandoms that we've yet to touch upon on this podcast. They range from Power Rangers, professional wrestling, console gaming, and so much more. Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, Trent.
Hey, David. Happy to be here.
So how would you describe fandom?
I think I'd describe it as something that has a large enough fan base that people form like sort of a community around. They have a common interest around it, and they wouldn't otherwise know each other. Say if you go to a sporting event or on Twitter or Facebook groups or whatever. It's a small community or a large community depending on what it is, and brings people together to enjoy whatever the interest may give,
What fandoms are you into?
Well, a long list of things, mainly Power Rangers, Marvel, DC, wrestling, professional wrestling, I guess I should clarify that, and sci-fi, TV movies, lots of that type of stuff, geek stuff.
Okay, awesome. How did you get into Power Rangers? What's the story behind that?
The story is really, I was 4 years old, and there was a Saturday morning cartoons, and that was part of the time slot at the time. 1993, Jurassic Park came out, and dinosaurs were over. I use that term in the wrestling business. They were over, but they were huge at the time. So, I was all about the T-Rex life, So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when Power Rangers hit the air, magic.
I'm going to date myself here. When you were 4 in 1993 watching Power Rangers, I was going into high school.
Oh, wow.
and I remember watching that first episode on TV on its initial air date just because I had heard about it and was interested in checking it out.
Oh, I'm glad it piqued your interest. What did you think as a high school kid?
Man, as a high school kid, I was into it. I really enjoyed it for the cheesiness and the campiness of it, because I had grown up on shows like Voltron and Transformers when I was even much back in the 80s. Mm. So I've got all the 80s cartoon shows running around. Power Rangers is really just a live action version of, say, Voltron with a bit of a different story.
Yeah.
But I was also into the characters too. Like Billy was, as far as original Rangers go, going all the way back, Billy was the character I most connected with.
Right.
Because he was the nerdy, geeky guy in a group of more popular, socially acceptable kids, really.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I've got a lot of friends that gravitated towards Billy growing up. I think it makes more sense for me too given my current interests, but but I don't know. For me, it was always Jason, the leader, the Red Ranger, because he just exuded powerful leadership, and a nice small group of friends. I don't know. I always liked to be the leader in whatever games we played on the playground or whatever. So, we were like kindred spirits, and also it helped that I also was in love with the T-Rex.
Right.
So that was his Zord, for people who don't know, that his spirit animal that they used for the show.
Jason is an interesting character as far as the original 5 go, because not like he's the leader, but he's also real subdued as far as leadership goes. He's got that quiet confidence
Hmm.
where he's doing what he needs to do, but he's not doing it to the point where he's like, I'm the leader, I'm calling the shots. He just he's got that quality about him where he's going to be your friend, he's making the right decisions for you, and he's also just a solid guy who's not going to be barking down your neck about like what you need to do or don't do.
Exactly. Like he, I don't know, is something the way they portrayed him on the show. They made it seem like if something went wrong, or say for instance, when Tommy was losing his powers, he felt so responsible for it. He put his life at risk to face off Goldar to make sure he saved Tommy's powers because he wanted him a part of the team. So, and for him to lose his powers would be a huge loss for it. So, yeah, that's the kind of guy I thought of him at the time. So.
Is the original Power Rangers your favorite series, or do you have one that you prefer more?
Well, the original Power Rangers will always have a special place for in my heart for being the first and the original, And it had a great story for its first outing, but there have been several iterations over the years that have been able to fine-tune the story and the characters a bit beyond what Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was able to do. I think, for instance, Time Force would probably be the number one, and then Power Rangers RPM would also be up there. Because they weren't your typical Power Rangers. They weren't, hey, let's all go to the juice bar. Oh, wait, there's a monster. Let's go fight it. They were
Mm-hmm.
they were in like they were very deep stories. For instance, RPM, it was pretty much a Terminator story in kind of like Mad Max land, I guess. It got to the point where, well, it started the show out with the whole world was dead except for a small population in this one city, and that's wow. That was so not the Mighty Morphin I was used to.
I've seen a few since the original. I watched the original up through Turbo,
Hmm.
and then I kind of dropped off from it, and I picked it back up again to watch the season Dino Thunder,
Oh yeah,
where they brought Tommy back.
yeah. A lot of people came back for that one.
So I watched that series, really liked it, and then when Netflix started carrying the series, like the different seasons, I had read about different episodes that people should check out, like the list of the top 10 Power Rangers episodes. Like one of them was the Forever Red
Oh yes,
episode where all the Red Rangers come back.
one of my favorites.
So I've been in and out. I mean, I'll always have the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Plus, when they did the run of the ninja themed Rangers after the movie,
Mhm.
and the Alien Rangers, that was a good season.
Yeah.
Where they had the aliens doing it.
Yeah. It's funny. At the time, I was wondering where's the Power Rangers? Like the one, like I know they're kids, but where's the actors that they were gone for? I was like, okay, they're gone for one episode, two episodes, three episodes. Okay, where are they? I didn't learn till later in life they were filming the movie at the same time.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's why they needed the Alien Rangers at that time. I don't know. I just thought it was one of those funny things.
Is Jason your favorite Power Ranger, or do you have other favorites?
He's my all-time favorite, but second was absolutely Tommy. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I know he's a lot of people's favorites, and I know he's known as the best of the best of the best of the Rangers. He's got, but he didn't resonate with me as much as Jason did. Like,
Right.
Tommy, as a kid, I thought, he's cool and all, but he's kind of arrogant in certain ways, and that didn't really do anything for me until eventually kind of worked his way into the team and kind of became a little bit more humble in my eyes. Looking back, he wasn't such a jerk back then. Because Rita took over his mind and he was evil at
Hmm.
first. But he eventually wore me down, and I was like, he's actually really cool.
I know I have a friend. I don't know what it is. I've never really asked her about it,
Hmm.
but she does not like Tommy. She is so
Oh,
much into Jason, and I'm not sure what it was, like if it was how things were handled in the original series where Jason, his actor Austin St. John, left the show, and then it became Tommy's, like he got slotted in as the lead ranger, plus his relationship with Kimberly was kind of transitioned from Jason over to Tommy.
right, right. Yeah, I didn't really see a romantic connection between Kimberly and Jason at the time. Like as soon as Tommy walked in the picture, Kimberly had her eyes set on him. So I kind of ran with that. Jason, I don't know, I kind of felt he didn't really need a relationship to define him on the show. But it is what it is. And also him exiting the show, that yeah, I felt that too. But at the same time, I grew to respect Tommy at that point. Jason leaving didn't bother me as much apparent as it bothered others. So yeah.
If there was a person listening that was interested in watching Power Rangers, maybe someone that either hasn't seen it or is like me, remembers it from the way back when time, what series, like what iteration would you recommend for them to jump into?
Well, if they don't want to watch Mighty Morphin, if they want to see like something new, something fresh, I'd say come back for Time Force. It's all new cast of characters. There's a great love story in there, and the story is a little bit more adult than what you might be used to from the original show. So yeah, come back for Time Force if you have to come back for one.
And is there an underrated season that you think people should maybe check out more or give it a chance to go back and look at?
Let me think about that. I think Mystic Force doesn't really get as much credit as it deserves because I thought the story was richer than what I completely skipped over it when it first came out because I was like, oh, it looks like a ripoff of Harry Potter.
Hmm.
um, because it was magic based, but and they had capes. After I did my marathon of the entire series, like I come to respect it way above others because it tells a story about the Red Ranger is orphaned, and then he comes to a town to look for his parents. Turns out one of his parents is one of the villains, and the other is happens to be a mentor. Spoiler alert, but I don't think many people would go out to look for
Well, you never know.
it. Yeah,
There's always people checking out stuff on Netflix when there's nothing to
true,
watch.
true, true. I'll give you that.
And it is nice to have or at least most of the seasons up on Netflix now to be able to jump into it. I remember when I was getting into Dino Thunder, it was either just airing or it just come out, and I was lucky enough that someone had put it up online to snag.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it was hard for a while just trying to find different seasons and the iterations of it, especially the older ones.
Yes, yes. Thankfully, I think if I'm not mistaken, Shout Factory. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Um,
I've heard of them, but I'm not familiar with it.
well, they have a history of bringing back old TV shows and movies that never got DVD releases or never even got VHS releases, and
Okay.
releasing them on either DVD or Blu-ray. I think currently they're releasing individual. I know they released the entire first 20 seasons of Power Rangers on DVD in one collection inside this giant Red Ranger helmet that I'm looking at right now on my
Awesome.
desk. But they also have collections of each season being released sporadically over, I don't know, every 5 months, 6 months, I don't know. But yeah, there's that option too. So there's they're they're doing great work for the fans that never got to see the series in their entirety. So
Hmm.
there's that option too.
Do you watch the Japanese airings of it, or do you just stick with the American versions?
I actually do watch the Super Sentai, as they call it over there. I'm still catching up to the shows that we grew up with, like Mighty Morphin's counterpart, Jew Ranger. I haven't seen those, and I haven't seen the ones up to even Megaforce. I think I've watched the Zeo counterpart. But yes, I actually have watched the Zeo counterpart, which is O Ranger. It has the Gold Ranger, if people don't know that. I am currently watching everything that's counterparted after Megaforce. Like I started with Gokaiger, and now I'm currently at Zyuohger. So I've been keeping up with the current stuff.
What's the one thing that's different, or what if there's more than one thing? But what's like your main difference, or the main difference between the Japanese and the American versions?
That's a good question. Well, over in Japan, they do things a lot differently than we do here. Such as they on their children's television, they allow the actors to bleed. Well, not really, but on their shows they bleed even for kids. Uh,
Okay.
Tell me, have you ever seen blood on Power Rangers in your time watching?
Nothing that I can remember.
Exactly. So, oh, and they could curse too. You don't see that in the American version, and there's a lot of sexual innuendo and perversion, especially with the counterpart to Tommy's White Ranger over in Japan. He was a child actually who was very perverted. I don't know what kind of show you have here, but he looked up girl skirts.
Okay.
It got weird, and the monsters sometimes they got weird a lot. Japan, they think on a different level than we do.
Right. I know that with some of the monsters on the original Mighty Morphin, you could tell that there was some stuff that they either had to have cut out or changed because of the way that the monsters were interacting with the footage that they used for the fight scenes.
Yeah, they were pretty clever cutting around a lot of stuff. Not just the Megazord monster fights, but the Ranger fights with the because they had like regular Japanese people out of suit involved in some of these fights, and
Hmm.
the producers of the American show, they had to cut around all that and write a story around that. So it's pretty clever how they were able to pull that off.
They have a new Power Rangers movie that they're working on for at least over here in the States.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on it?
I am absolutely excited. My time watching Power Rangers, they did did the two movies in theaters already, and both really didn't do all that well. The first one did a little better than the second one, but I didn't think they'd, care enough to come back to the show. But thankfully, there's someone out there looking out for us Ranger fans and managed to get it back on the big screen. So I'm pretty happy about that.
What are you hoping for with the movie?
Number one, I'm hoping it doesn't suck
Okay.
and scares people away, who would otherwise be curious about coming to this, checking out the show again, that, only remember Mighty Morphin and then stopped after that. Hoping to bring in new fans. That's the number one thing.
Right, definitely. I think that's what a lot of people with other fandoms too is these new shows or new movies coming out. That's one of the key things that I've been hearing people talk about is whenever there's a new show, there's more fans, like it's bringing more fans in. I've heard it with the new Star Trek movies are bringing new fans in, not only those that are interested in the new movies, but now they're going back with their interest in watching like Next Generation or Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Or with Sailor Moon having Sailor Moon Crystal coming out, that's bringing a lot of new fans into Sailor Moon and that branch of like the anime fandom.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly my point. I want it to be, if it's good, great. If it's awesome, fantastic. Bring in those new fans.
You take your fandom of Power Rangers to a level more so than you being interested in Power Rangers and being like watching Power Rangers. You are a Red Ranger.
Yep. Yeah.
How did you get into cosplaying as the Red Ranger?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because it's a funny story. Wizard World Sacramento 2014. Yeah, 2014. It was my second ever convention. You know, I was just a casual fan of, well, I wouldn't say casual. I was into a lot of this stuff already, but I wasn't quite into the cosplay scene. I was enamored by it though. Like I'd watch YouTube videos and see like these cosplay videos people put up of and then I see Power Rangers in them, and I'm just like, whoa, how did they get like the legit suits, man? I'd be happy
Hmm.
to get one of my own. And then I see the price tag on a lot of them. I didn't ask any of the Rangers. I just researched, and come to find out these suits aren't cheap. So I was like, oh, but it is what it is. But so Wizard World 2014, I had already ordered a helmet from Aniki Cosplay. Shout out to Aniki, supplied most of my suits. And I was like, yeah, I'll just settle with having the Red Ranger helmet and calling it a day. Um,
Okay.
and I got stopped by no, my friend got stopped for because he did a really good Naruto character. I'm not familiar with Naruto, but he got stopped for pictures, and he was carrying a pizza, leftover pizza we were walking around with, and somebody stopped him for a picture. And then I said, okay, I'll take the pizza and hold on to it. And the person taking the photograph, he was like, oh, no, 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 no. I like your hoodie, man. I love Power Rangers. You get in there too. I was like, wait, what? So I was like, okay. So I set our stuff down, and I'm already familiar with the Ranger poses, so I do my best Red Ranger pose. And next thing I know, this he's taking the picture, and then a whole bunch of other people are taking the picture along of me and my friend. And I'm like, what is happening? I'm just the guy with the Red Ranger hoodie. So I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then I thought about it. I was like, looking at the Red Ranger helmet, I was like, no, I cannot settle for this. I need more. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get me a suit. I wasn't sure if people would like it because I'm not exactly what you'd call a ranger fit. I'm a little bit
Okay.
bigger than your average ranger, but at the same time, I was like, I have to be a ranger. So I didn't care at that point. I wanted to be a Power Ranger that much. I've always wanted to be a Power Ranger. So I was like, this is the perfect time for me to get into it. And it's been history ever since.
How many Ranger outfits do you have now?
Now I have an alternate version of the Red Ranger. Not the helmet, but the rest of the stuff. It's based off of Jason David Frank's Bat in the Sun. I don't know if you've seen the Bat in the Sun Ryu versus Green Ranger fight.
Yes, I have.
What'd you think of that, by the way?
I thought it was awesome. I mean, those came out of nowhere, those different fights, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, the Red Ranger, I have the Red Ranger version of the Green Ranger suit that was used for that. So
Okay.
that's the alternate version. Right now, I'm waiting for a new helmet to be made, so I'll bring that back into circulation. But I also have the Blue and Space Ranger, which I had signed by the Super Sentai counterpart who had his first convention ever at Fandom this year. That was and he signed the inside of my helmet, so that was cool. And I also have, of course, the Gold Zeo Ranger.
Okay.
So yeah, those are all my Ranger suits.
And you get them through, I believe you said it was Anarchy?
Well, yes, the last two I got through Anarchy. The Red Ranger I had to piece together from lots of different makers, and yeah, that was a process in and of itself. So yeah.
Is that the way to go for people that are cosplaying as Power Rangers, is that they have to really just order from a company?
If you want everything all at once, find the makers that do that. But the counterpoint to that is they don't always make the best stuff. For example, Anarchy, he makes great helmets. I can't recommend him enough for helmets. But his body suits could be better, which is why I recommend Rav Seams for bodysuits. He's probably the most pricey out of all the bodysuit makers, but he's probably the most professionally well made suits. Probably even better than the show suits, the suits that you see on the show. For example, the current Gold Ranger on the show for Dino Charge,
Mm-hmm.
his suit looks more tan than gold, while Rav's suit looks gold as it should be from the Super Sentai counterpart. But yeah, you're gonna have to piece them together if you don't like a certain thing or the quality of a certain maker. So I'd recommend piecing it together for me. Other people, if they want to get everything absolutely all in one place, yeah, Anarchy Cosplay is the way to go. I wouldn't recommend him last year because he got pretty backed up, but I think he's on this new system where he has more staff and he has somebody affiliated. He operates out of Indonesia, so it's a little bit harder for him to get stuff out. And
Okay.
yeah, and paying for mass shipping is a nightmare for him. So I think he has an American affiliate here that facilitates that a little bit better. So yeah, Anarchy Cosplay to get everything all at once.
Do you cosplay as anyone else besides Power Rangers?
Yes, slowly getting into that realm. I started out with doing Batman. Um, Even though I, I get this joke all the time. I'm not the exact race for Batman. There's been jokes left and right about it. I get it. I'm a African American being Batman, and yeah, you could hear the jokes now. But I don't care. I love Batman. I love Batman, so I'm gonna do I'm gonna be Batman.
Right.
And I'm gonna try my best to look great as Batman. So he's had several iterations ever since I started, but now he's had to play. He's based off the current Batman, Ben Affleck's Batman.
Okay.
And I think I got him to where I want him. There's certain tweaks here and there I could do to him, but I think I got him where I want him. And I also cosplay as Finn from Star Wars Force Awakens. I'm not an exact duplicate, but I think I do pretty good.
I've seen the picture. You do it's like really close
Oh, thank you.
as far as everything goes. I mean, when I saw it, it's pretty spot on.
Oh, wow. I appreciate that. Yeah. I ordered a commission from my friend Jim. He does really great Star Wars costume work. I think he's part of the Rebel Legion here in California. There's lots of Star Wars costume branches here in
Mm-hmm.
California because some of them get asked on to be stormtroopers for like the First Order stormtroopers for the when they do the at Disneyland or
Or like Star Wars weekends and stuff like
yeah,
that.
well they have that Star Wars convention. I forget what it's called.
Celebration?
Yeah, Star Wars Celebration. That's right. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Yeah, they were brought on stage to stand behind the actors. I think that was the 501st Legion. That's what they call themselves. And yeah, they get to do a lot of stuff. They get to get into conventions. But I digress. Yeah, he was able to make my Finn jacket, and pants were pretty easy to come by, and I already had the lightsaber, so yeah, it was no problem to be Finn. The fro, that's all me, so yeah,
All natural.
all natural.
Like that's an issue that has come up and when I've been doing like researching for like the cosplay community and just reaching out and talking to people, is I wouldn't say it's gotten worse as far as from what I can see, because there's been a major movement that anybody can cosplay, and there should be no, like, you shouldn't be against somebody doing cosplay because they're not the fit of the character.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that issue? Like, has that, I mean, you mentioned having people make jokes about obviously you being a black Batman.
Yes.
Does that come up as far as like people giving you like looks or making the comments? Was it more prevalent when you began, and now maybe it's not so much? Like, what is your experience with that?
Well, it's funny. I feel like I'm about to regurgitate what your previous guests talked about. As far as people saying things online rather than to your face,
Mm-hmm.
because that's my experience. People don't think when they say things. They think they're being funny, or they think that my account's being ran by like a joke account, so they just think, maybe they don't think I don't read what they say, but I read it, and I don't know. They take issue with either my race, or if I have my friends who are other Power Rangers who may be a little bit overweight, they make fun of their weight. I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, that's not what cosplay is about. It's about how being what you want to be, and no matter what, without judgment. I don't know. It's usually not people within our community. It's the casual people who, maybe search out, like, if I hashtag like Batman or something, and they stumble upon my photo and they see me as a black Batman, they say, "Oh, look, black man, ha 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 ha." I'm like, "Really, dude?" And I see it over and over and over again. It's like, wow, people are unoriginal. So I don't know. If you're gonna make a joke like that, please be clever about it at least. Like, I don't know. But at conventions, people have been awesome. They come up to me, they stop me for pictures. They're like, "Oh my God, dude, you're a badass Batman. I love it, man. I love it." And yeah, the kids. Well, with my Batman, it scares some kids, but
Right.
others are pretty cool. They're a little shy, but they want to come take pictures, and I'm like, and their parents are like, look, it's Batman. Look, let's take a picture. And the kid's like, I don't know. But it's fun. It's fun.
That's great. I did talk to the guest that you're talking about. I believe it's Bailey.
Mm-hmm.
That you were referencing.
Yes.
Yeah, she and I were talking about it, and then we had talked about it a little bit more about how it's in the conventions, there's never an issue. It's never like brought up. Everyone's just in it for the fun. You're representing the character regardless of like your costuming or the costume that you have on, if you made it, if you purchased it, as long as you're really just representing who you want to be and the character that you love so much.
Yeah.
And I've definitely seen it more on online, the internet forums, which it's at times you just have to not read the comments regardless of whether it's about cosplay or the TV shows or movies or whatnot.
Exactly.
When you're picking out people to cosplay, like, are you more aware of it when you're trying to make that decision? Obviously, Batman is more of he's caped and masked, and you see your skin color on the periphery, and Finn is straight up African American.
Mm-hmm.
Is there someone that you've like thought about cosplaying as and you've kind of held back because it's such a change, or you just don't care?
I largely don't care. I like what I like, and if I see something I like, I want to be it because it's cool to me. Like, for example, number one, the original thing I cosplayed as, the Red Mighty Morphin Ranger, is not black. So I blow people's minds when I take that helmet off and they don't see a white guy. Yeah, it boggles my mind that 2016, people can't compute in their brains that people like to dress up as characters that are not within their either race, gender, or weight. It boggles my mind still.
Well, let's move off of that
Hmm.
and go into a fandom that you and I both share besides Power Rangers.
Yes.
Again, dating myself, I go way back before you probably got into it, but it is professional wrestling.
Yes. Oh boy.
How did you get into professional wrestling?
Well, I emailed you the story, some of the story, but back when I was, let's see, 8 years old, back in, I believe, 1997, I was flipping through channels as it was my bedtime. I had to be at school in the morning, and Monday Night Raw came on at like 9 o'clock. Yeah, at the time it came on at 9 because that was back when it was 2 hours. Oh my God, don't
Yeah, 9 to
yeah,
11.
don't get me started on that 3 hour thing. But yeah, it was 9 to 11 at the time, and I was flipping through channels to see what I could watch, before I go to bed, and I see this bald dude, looked like a motorcyclist or something. He had, he always had his black vest and gold chains, and he was over there drinking beers and flipping people off, and then he beats the crap out of his boss, and come to find out that guy is Stone Cold Steve Austin. And I'm like, this guy is awesome. So I was hooked ever since. And then I see this guy asking people if he smelled what he was cooking, and seeing this other guy, uh, looked like a zombie walking out slowly into death music. I was like, what is going on in this thing? And seeing guys getting bloodied up left and right, and jumping off ladders into tables and stuff. I was like, this is amazing. Why haven't I not found this before? So after that, I was hooked ever since.
Yeah, and you got into it right when it was hot, like the hottest that professional wrestling had ever been,
Yes.
between WWE or back then it was WWF,
Hmm.
and WCW, World Championship Wrestling, with the Monday Night Wars.
Hmm.
That was one of the best periods of professional wrestling. I know that a lot of people look back on it fondly now. I'm a big subscriber of Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast and Jim Ross's
Same
podcast,
here.
and they talk about like some of the stuff in the Attitude Era was fantastic and some of it wasn't. But that whole time period when both major companies were firing on all cylinders, I mean, the stuff that they put out was phenomenal. And you got into it at that point, which is just amazing.
Yeah, a lot of my friends did too, which we we all, yeah, my friends and my cousins, we got into it, and we started, they say, please don't try this at home.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who followed that rule? We tried it at home all the time.
I remember back in the late 80s, which is right around the time of WrestleMania 6. So that's way back. Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior, that was the headline main event. I remember power bombing one of my friend's little brothers on a bed, and let's just say that it freaked us out because his crying started
Oh,
immediately.
no.
Luckily, he was okay, but that was the end of not doing anything at home as far as wrestling goes.
That's cool. I think worst I did was speared my mom onto the couch.
Oh my goodness. Well, I could just hear Jim Ross saying that you broke her in half.
Yeah, exactly. I would love to have somebody commentate backyard wrestling for me, and I don't know if I could wrestle like straight up because I'd be listening to the commentary table.
Oh yeah. Are you still watching now?
Yes, I am. Probably not as, nowadays I kind of have it as background noise when I'm doing other
Hmm.
things. I don't know. It just seems these days it's more about selling something other than the actual wrestling or the storylines.
Hmm.
And I don't know, it's just it becomes too scripted, I think.
That's one of the things, and I know since you and I both listen to, it seems like the same podcast
Yeah.
as far as wrestling goes, that's been one of the complaints, is that the performers are coming out with these scripts that they're having to memorize, or even just the general script of, let's talk about point A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the era that we were watching, the Attitude Era, they gave him a live mic
Mm-hmm.
and let him go.
Yes, exactly. And that begs the question: is Vince confident in his current crop of superstars that in the top wrestling business in the world to be able to go out there and speak from the heart, basically, or is he not confident enough at them at all so he circumvents that to just giving them those same bullet points?
That's an interesting question, because I remember when he did that Stone Cold podcast that was on after Raw had come off the air on the network, and he had talked about that brass ring that people are trying to reach for, and I really think that he holds them back from being able to reach it because he doesn't give them the chance to go out there and do it. Like he had brought up specifically Cesaro as one of the wrestlers who he could see something in, but he hadn't really reached out to it. But at the same time, you're not giving him the mic time. From what the backstage reports had, you told him not to do certain moves that the fans loved. And you really, it's not setting them up for success if you're not going to have them on and have them at least be on the TV to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know. It boggles my mind because I think I don't necessarily have the time to watch it, but I hear in NXT they're able to get around that somehow, some way. They're able to get around that. I don't know if it's because it's on the network and they have certain limitations they could do on the USA network or something. I don't know, but I hear that's why it's a better product on the NXT side of things, even though it's for less experienced or coming up in the ranks wrestlers, that they're able to get away with having a better show because they're able to pull off moves or talk about certain things to have a better flow of the show? Or is it because they have a shorter time slot as being only an hour long for their weekly shows or 2 hours for their well, I guess I don't know, would you call them pay-per-views if they're still on the network?
I think they're more like network specials.
I guess that's what you call them.
But yeah, I agree as far as the time, because having that hour really forces them to make the storylines not only happen in the hour, but extend them through multiple weeks. Like, you're extending the storyline, you're having it be tight. Like, it's not filler. You're not just having Dolph Ziggler go out there for however many matches and the storyline is just super slow. The storylines with NXT, they have that hour where every match has a meaning. There's a reason behind the match, whether it's a squash match, they're starting a rivalry, they're having someone run in and do something. Even the promos, I mean, it's all geared towards building just on layer on layer on layer. And it's definitely less, I wouldn't say campy, but I'd say it's just more story driven rather than what the main product has.
Exactly. I think either Jim Ross or Stone Cold said it on either of their podcasts. The main point is to get people to buy the pay-per-views and put the butts in the seats at the arenas. And if you're just kind of meandering around and, I don't know, kind of just stretching stuff out to reach the next hour, then you're not doing your job right. You need to make people care, and they're not. They're kind of dropping the ball with that on the Raw and SmackDown. So
yeah, and now I don't know when this episode's going to come out, but right now as we record it, they are going to be doing the brand split next month.
Right, yeah.
Which which I remember the original brand split way back in the day. You were probably still watching at that point,
Yep.
I imagine.
I remember it fondly.
Where the once Paul Heyman took over SmackDown, as far as like not in front of the screen so much, but behind the scenes, where he was the main writer and the main executive for that brand, and he had his core 6 wrestlers, and they had better matches, better stories than what was going on Raw at the time.
Yeah, I think the original split happened because Ric Flair debuted, and well, this is storyline wise. I don't know exactly what happened behind the scenes, but and also because there's a surplus of superstars that carried over from WCW and ECW. But Ric Flair came in at the time, and I guess for storyline wise, he took over Raw, and he like edged out Vince to SmackDown, and ever since they passed on the title GM to other people. So yeah, at that time, I want to say this about it. At that time, they had a lot more seasoned veterans that could bring the star power to each show. So it was fun to watch either SmackDown or Raw. I think SmackDown at the time had the better roster. But yeah, now it doesn't really make as much sense now because a lot of the superstars are still up and coming.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need some solid veterans on either show to really help out with the group that they have now, because a lot of the wrestlers, and granted, like you have wrestlers like Cesaro or Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, where they have the years of experience from the indies, but they've only been in WWE for the 2 or 3 years. You definitely need to have those other wrestlers that have been with the company for 5 years, 10 years, and you're going to have to split them. And I've seen that they've reached out to other like wrestlers that aren't in the company right now to see about bringing them back in, like Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, and a few others that have not been with the company for a while.
Oh, I think it's TNA's fault. Yeah, I don't know if you heard of the current news with them.
I know that they are either looking for a buyer, or that I know that they definitely have money issues.
Yeah, yes, I watched the Pro Wrestling Report on YouTube, and they know people within inside the organization, and they say it is nearly on its deathbed because superstars aren't getting paid or on time, and arena sales aren't doing well, or pay-per-view sales aren't doing well, and stuff like that. Just the list goes on. I think the main problem with TNA is Dixie Carter, from what they gather, and they probably need to change that head, because from what we know from history of wrestling, competition is awesome. And if you're not holding up your end of that competition, then WWE is just gonna meander. It's not gonna have to compete with anybody except for itself.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I hope they do well.
Now, who is your favorite wrestler as far as any era that goes? Who's the guy or girl that you just that's your person?
Absolutely, Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was the one that that turned the tide, if you will. He's the one that brought me in and kind of just took my breath away with his antics back then. Like, I was like, wow, who is this son of, that just didn't care about, authority or, the rules. He just did what he wanted, well, within the confines of the of the law most of the time. Well, not even then, with his running over limos with or cars with a monster truck, or filling up the Rock's car with cement or something like that. He didn't care, and I like that attitude. I don't know why I do. I just do. So Stone Cold, Absolutely. Even to this day, with his podcast, he he can't help himself but be himself, and that's why
Absolutely.
Stone Cold was a big success.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's my favorite.
Awesome. Yeah, when I listen to his podcast, it's just hilarious because the one thing that makes me laugh is I can't believe he lives in California now.
Yeah,
That it blows me away because he's always been such a Texas forever kind of guy.
yeah, that's
And I know he still has his ranch out there, but I cannot believe he lives out in LA.
yeah, yeah. I think he what was it Rio Agua Dulce that he films the Broken Skull Challenge or something? I don't know. I always hear him say that on this podcast. I can't remember what he uses that area for, but
Right.
at least in California, he has his moments to go somewhere that's more like a ranch type area. I know he loves. We're getting geeky about Stone Cold here, but I know he loves to ride his ATVs and motorcycles out there or something during filming a Redneck Island or not Redneck, Broken Skull Challenge and his CMT shows. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I guess that's why he's mainly out in California so he could get more work in the TV world. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there anything fandom wise that we have not talked about that you wanna bring up, you wanna talk about for a few minutes?
Um, yeah. There's certain shows that I don't get to really talk about with friends because I think I'm the only one out of my friend group. I have a lot of friends in my community, and none of them ever want to talk about the shows the 100 that's on the CW. I
Hmm.
don't know if you've heard of that one.
I know enough about it to kind of know like the characters, but I've never watched it. It's on my list of things to watch.
Yeah, fantastic show. And also Teen Wolf on MTV. With again, I don't know when you're putting this up, but that's where the current well, the current Superman and the Supergirl TV show that just got casted, Tyler Hoechlin. That's where I first saw him. I think he's done other stuff, but he that show overall is a great, badass show. Like I think it correlates more with comic books in terms of having like a hero being like a geek and then something happens and he gets powers and he's cool,
Hmm.
but he's still kind of a geek at heart.
Yeah, I did watch the first season of Teen Wolf, and I liked it. I liked what I saw. I mean, I had a few issues just as far as the special effects that they used
Right.
for the werewolf bits,
Yeah.
but the main storyline was pretty good. It's good enough for me to have season 2 ready to watch as far as shows going on. But definitely, and I have a lot of friends that are into both of those shows, the 100 and Teen Wolf.
Really?
I know that some of my friends got turned off of the 100 due to storyline issues that just happened this previous season with characters that they killed
Yeah,
off.
I heard about that. I was like, really? That turned you on? Okay. It's still a great show. I don't know why that would be a detriment to you watching the show, but okay.
Yeah, and then I know a lot of my friends are into Teen Wolf. I think a lot of the issue with Teen Wolf is that it's on MTV.
Yeah, that turns a lot of people away immediately, especially MTV being the way it is now.
Hmm.
But I hear that not only Teen Wolf's doing great on there. I hear the newer shows that they also have on there. I think the new Scream.
Yeah, Scream is
Yeah.
popular on that channel.
Yeah, and yeah, those two shows, like I wish I could talk about those more with people, but my friends don't, I tried to get them into it, but they're like, I got this show, I got that show to catch up on. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, there's always seems to be more shows out there than people have time for.
Exactly, exactly. It's sad. Why won't you watch my shows with me? Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you are listening and you watch the 100 or Teen Wolf, please reach out to Trent. He needs people to talk to about it.
Yes. Please do. I need it. I need it. somebody to geek out with about these shows.
Now, where can people find you if they want to follow you or talk to you, communicate with you?
Well, I don't really use it much, but you can follow me on Twitter. It's BigTrent07. Yeah, I think my header right now is the Gold Ranger cartoon version of me, and my main thing I use is Instagram. I think that's how you found me, David, right?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, Instagram. You can see all my cosplay shenanigans or whatever new thing I get or whatever pops my interest. I don't just use it for cosplay. I use it to talk about the news in my geeky fandoms, and this, that, and the other thing.
And what's your Instagram? Is it the same?
Yep, it's the same. BigTrent07.
All right. Well, I want everyone to go check out his stuff because, I mean, Power Rangers, Batman, Finn, you can't really go wrong, and his stuff is spot on.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Well, Trent, it has been great to have you on the podcast. I'd love to have you back when we get some free time to go over on some of the stuff, especially if I dedicate myself this summer to watching the 100 or Teen Wolf. I would love to have you back just to talk about those with you.
Thank you so much. I would love that.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.